Hey guys, it's Dr. Tom with EBM Fitness Solutions. In this video, we're going to look at the proper way to stretch your hip flexor. The hip flexor basically runs from the top of your thigh bone up to the vertebrae in the low back. Understanding the anatomy helps you understand how to get the best stretch, and also by doing it other ways, really doesn't stretch the muscle at all, but puts stress on other structures. So there's three parts to the stretch. You may not need all three. The idea is you only progress to the second and the third part if you need to. For many people, the first part is a good enough stretch and they hang out there. Eventually you can move to the second and eventually the third if you need it. But remember, in general, stretching should be mild to moderate in intensity. You should be able to breathe normally, talk through it. If you're fighting the stretch too hard, your body may reflexively kind of fight the stretch and not actually allow things to release and relax. So, step number one, first have something close by just to maintain balance. If you're kind of fighting yourself here, you're not helping yourself relax for the stretch. So foam roller, something next to you, anything is good. Kneel on something soft. I would not kneel on a hard surface, just doesn't feel good on the knee. Step number one, squeeze your glute. So I'm going to start nice and tall. I'm working on my left side. I'm going to squeeze my left glute. That creates a bit of a posterior pelvic tilt here. And you will feel, usually, almost everybody feels a little bit of a stretch in through the hip. Some of you may feel it into the thigh. That's normal, and it's normal for two reasons. One of your quad muscles attaches to the front of your hip. So when you rotate the hip back, it will pull on that a little bit. You're kneeling, right? So the bottom part of the quad, the patella tendon, is kind of being pinned down here because of the way you're kneeling on it. So if your quad is tight, you're essentially pinning the bottom, stretching the top. You may feel more of a pull in the knee. So it's not bad, but what you can do is if I move my knee so it's just off the front edge of the mat here, now I take away that pinning of the quad tendon and I can just work on the hip. So if you feel a lot of pull in the knee, just reposition yourself. If you're on a soft surface, just move to the edge so the kneecap is just over the edge, and that will take some of the stress out of the quad. Okay, so back to the glute. Squeeze the glute and hold that. You'll feel a pull here. That may be good enough. You feel that, and you go, oh, that's pretty good. Hang tight, 20 or 30 seconds, and then repeat on the other side. If you do that and you feel a little bit, but you feel like you could handle a little bit more, keep your glute tight and think about shifting your body forward. Okay? I'll show you in a minute from the side what not to do. I'm maintaining a good upright position. I'm shifting my entire body. My spine doesn't move. I'm still moving through the hip here. Focus on that. So that's the second piece. So you got to squeeze the glute, shift forward. The third piece is on the side you're stretching is to push out towards the side. So it's going to be just this little bit of motion there, not a lot. So you can see I've done the stretch in the three positions. I'm in the actual stretch position for me. I haven't moved a ton. That's the idea. If you're moving a lot, you're probably doing something incorrect. Okay? From the side, I'll show you what people tend to do and what's not going to work and why it's a bad idea. So, the first part, squeeze the glute, right? So I maintain good upright position here, and when I shift, you can see how my body moves together. This is what you want to avoid. Moving this foot out here and arching your back and doing this kind of a stretch. So remember in the beginning I mentioned the hip flexor runs from the top of the thigh bone to the lumbar spine. When you arch your back like that, you kind of put slack into the hip flexor, so you're not stretching at all. The pulling you feel in the front is more stressing the front, like the interior capsule of the hip, which is not something that you really want to do. So the goal is to stretch the hip flexor, not your capsule. So maintain good upright mechanics, right? So I'm here, squeeze the glute. If I need to, shift forward, and then I can push my hip out to the side, but everything stays right in the front of the hip area. In the beginning I mentioned about the knee. I could simply hang my knee off the front of the mat here. If I'm feeling too much pull in the quad, squeeze the glute, and that should keep it more into the hip and out of your quad. If it's really, really tight, that is a simple kind of a correction to make it more of a hip and less of a quad stretch.